या दिल की सुनो दुनिया वालों, या मुझको अभी चुप रहने दो। मैं गम को खुशी कैसे कह दूं, जो कहते हैं उनको कहने दो। या दिल की सुनो दुनिया वालों। ये फूल चमन में कैसा खिला, ये फूल चमन में कैसा खिला, माली की नजर में प्यार नहीं। हंसते हुए क्या क्या देख लिया, अब बहते हैं आंसू बहने दो। या दिल की सुनो दुनिया वालों।
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very new, fresh episode of Talking Books, our series about authors and artists from all parts of the globe. Here I am in front of you, Lopa Banerjee, and it is my great pleasure, honor, and privilege today to introduce somebody very special for Talking Books, Mr. Avijit Sarkar, whom I call Avijit Da, so I might refer to him as Avijit Da throughout the show. Avijit Da is not only an author, but he's an illustrator, a musician, a puppeteer, an artist, a cartoonist, illustrator, and a man of many, many talents. He's a mathematician as well, I have read. And it is my great pleasure to introduce him and his creative journey. We'll talk about his creative journey today, the process of all his creative works, maybe the stories behind his creative journey, and his unique travails, his unique tale as part of Talking Books. And I'm very, very excited to have him in this show because we are talking face to face using this virtual medium, of course. But for the first time, I have been introduced to Abhijit Da through his magazine, which he used to edit long time back, named The Mind Creative. It was probably in 2015 where my journey with knowing him started, and thereafter it has been a very enriching and fulfilling journey. And I want to introduce him to you all and his bio and his works to you all before our tete-a-tete begins. Avijit Sarkar is a musician, composer, illustrator, cartoonist, writer, poet, puppeteer, philanthropist, and a polymath from Sydney, Australia. He has been endorsed by the Australian Performing Rights Association, as a music composer. His first book, A Turn of Events, was recently published in Australia. His designs, illustrations, and cartoons have appeared in many magazines and books across the world. Abhijit is the director of Nataraj Academy that he has established in Sydney 11 years ago. Wow, quite a journey. Today, all proceeds from his creative pursuits are donated to medical research and charities in Australia. In a career spanning over 4 decades, Abhijit has left his footprint in every form of creativity in Australia. And I would dare say, not only in Australia, he has left his creative imprints in all parts of the globe. People from like, and people spanning all ages and geographies, boundaries, are now acquainted with his work through the social media, through his books, through his publications, and through his music and art. So, once again, it is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Avijit Sarkar, Avijit Da, to you all. Welcome, Avijit Da, to Blue Pencil's Author Showcase. And I'm very happy to have you on board, featuring stunning out of the box personalities, authors, thinkers, and change makers of our society. And you undoubtedly are one of them. And I'm truly overwhelmed to welcome you as our honored guest.
Thank you.
So, where do I even start? You are an international reputed artist, illustrator, a cartoonist, and internationally published writer with a number of books to your credit. Also, an editor of an erstwhile magazine or e-zine, The Mind Creative, which I already mentioned before when the session started. Also, a musician of repute, founder of Nataraj Academy in Sydney, Australia, a polymath who has left your footprint in every possible form of creativity. So, my question is, how do you wear these multiple hats at the same time? Because we all know the right brain and the left brain, they are like in tandem, they are responsible for all the acts, everyday acts that we do. How, according to you, does your right brain and left brain work, and how does one creative talent feed the other?
Well, I think what drives me is curiosity. That's been my driver since I was a child. So I'm extremely curious. So if I see something interesting, which is creative, rather than just look at it, I want to do it. That since I was little. So that drove me to learn different things. And the way I think the way you do it is I've told this to my students that you try and divide your mind into watertight compartments. So when you're writing, for example, you must focus on that, and you forget that you're a singer or you do music. That's how I've
So
tried
it
to
is a kind of a
balance.
switch on and switch off process,
Mm,
no?
it is like that, and it's driven, as I said, by curiosity. Of course, an important thing is time management.
Yeah,
So
of
if you
course.
want to do multiple things, you must know how to manage your time. Otherwise, you are in trouble, and people around you are in trouble. Both.
So what takes precedence? Like when you take on a project, for example, say you are working on a cartoon or an illustration at the same time, working on a musical project in the same week, and also writing
Yes.
a book
Yes.
in the same
Yes.
week or the same month. So what takes precedence over what? That is a
The
process I
precedence.
want to
One
understand.
thing that takes precedence is the delivery time. So if somebody says I've got to produce a music composition by next week for some recording, then that takes precedence. So the delivery times, but give all things being equal, if there are no commitment to delivery times, then it's up to me. Then the mood drives me. It's not that always you're in the mood for creating music compositions or drawing pictures. So that mood drives you. But if there is a time factor, somebody says or the producer says something has to
So
be
maybe
delivered,
a
then that
deadline
takes.
driven thing, then it
Yeah,
will
yeah,
take precedence over the
definitely.
others.
That takes precedence, yes, for me. Yeah.
And like so many aspects of your brain, like one doesn't clash with the other ever. That
It
has
does
never happened.
actually. No, no, it does. It does.
It does.
It does. Especially when you're, let's say, you're writing music or you're drawing, or some of these things do feed into each other. They do.
Okay.
So if I'm drawing a cartoon and I've drawn a nice little character, sometimes that thought passes through my mind that if I write something, or if I'm writing a short story, one of a cartoon, a character that I've created on paper should appear in one of the stories because I like it. So that kind of feeding does
Yeah, that
happen.
is what
So
I will ask in a question,
okay,
because I have something related to your
okay,
illustration and your writing in
okay,
tandem with each other. I will come to
sure,
that uh,
okay,
some point.
yeah,
Um, so, Another question: who is the real Abhijit Sarkar in your words? Like, you are a combination of various things, as much as we have gathered. Is he your closest confidante? A beautiful concoction of your conscious and subconscious voices, because you keep creating various avatars within yourself and also in your creations. Or
Mhm.
is he an outcome of your dreams or inspirations? How would you define that process?
I think I am an outcome of my dreams and inspiration. That's how I what I think I am. I always believe in life that you if you dream about 10 things, you might possibly achieve three or four or five.
Wow,
So the more you dream, the
great
more you
philosophy.
achieve. Yeah. So I keep on. You can't stop dreaming. You have to keep on dreaming and hoping that you achieve all your dreams. It may not be so, but even if you achieve half of them, I think you're doing all right. But then,
Wow.
and unconsciously, yes, I have always been, as I said, I'm a very curious person, and so my curiosity and my dreams, they feed into each other all the time, literally all the time. All the time I'm thinking and dreaming, and I should do this, I shouldn't do that. Some of the things come
So,
true.
in doing
Some
this, you would say that you are your closest confidante, or sometimes there's a
yes.
clash in your own mind what you want to reveal to yourself and what you want to hide.
There are a lot of things in the subconscious. There are a lot of things which actually they are at war with each other. Sometimes, and I
Yeah,
sometimes think that should I do this or should I? For example, I often think that I think of some music, and I think, should I create this kind of music? Does it, or should I not? There's those kind of. So there's always a conflict. So if you're in this business of creating things, you have to live with these conflicts. You always have conflicts, and you're a writer yourself. You know that there are conflicts within yourself. Even when you're writing, you sometimes wonder, should I or should I not? So
yeah, it
the
happens
conflicts
to
will
me
always
as
be.
well. Every
Well,
time I'm
yeah,
in two minds, oscillating between two extreme levels of thought.
yes,
So I just wanted
absolutely.
to know whether that resonates with you or not.
It does. It does.
Yeah,
A creative person is always at conflict with oneself. That's what I think it is. Everyone is,
and
and
that
that's
makes
and
it all
that
the more fascinating, no?
exactly that actually spurs you on to create
Yeah,
more or create
and it's a
different
very
things.
complex process. Also, it's not
It
very
is.
simple
It
to
is. No, it's not. It
analyze in
looks
a way.
simple, but it's not. No, that's right.
Yeah. Uh, so we all know that you are a creative person, essentially, with many aspects and many avatars of manifestation of your creativity. But if you go back to your childhood, say if we rewind the yesteryears like a time machine and go directly to your childhood days, would you say that there were sparks of creativity in you right from your childhood? Like, what are the earliest memories in that case? Earliest memories of your creativity, what are they?
Yes, I believe I was a bit on the creative side since I was little. That's if I have to believe my parents. Yes, I was. The earliest memories are of drawing and painting, not of music. So
Okay.
yeah, as I've told in
But
many
how
people
old
that
are were you then at that
I
time?
would be about 3 years old, maybe 2 or 3 years old.
Oh, okay, that
Yeah. So
young.
yeah. So I used to draw constantly at that time. That's what my mother used
Do
to
you
say
have
that.
any of them now?
No, nothing. At
Nothing?
that time, I grew up in a household. We didn't have much money, really. My parents couldn't afford colored pencils or paper
And
at that time.
what
They were
was
quite
your
poor.
hometown town in India?
Calcutta. So I was born
Calcutta?
in Calcutta.
Okay, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
I was born in Calcutta in a suburb called Bow Bajar. Okay,
Oh,
and
okay,
there.
Bogajar, I know. It's near Entally.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I was there, and my parents didn't have money to buy paper or colored pencils. So they used to buy me little white chalks. And
How
my mother
sweet.
says I used to, my mother says I used to draw all the time on the floor. That's all I did. I remember when my parents went to somebody's house for dinner or lunch, whatever. They used to carry me, and they used to carry pieces of paper and pencil. So I'd just sit in the corner and draw all the time. That's what I did.
Oh, wow. How
That's
sweet.
so so so, so that's how it was. So my earliest
We
memories,
all
therefore,
do
are
that
of
in our
drawing.
childhood, but none of us are as, many of us don't grow up to be as talented as you are. Like
That's,
many children draw from their
yes,
formative
yes,
years.
yes,
Later
yes,
on, they are lost.
yes, yes, yes. That does happen. But yes, that's
Yeah,
how I was. So a painter by birth, I think.
yeah. That's something very typical of you. But I just have the curiosity. How did that, like you talk about your earliest inclinations of sketching and painting? How did that flourish and take shape in like the various manifestations? Maybe that was one aspect of your creativity. Later on there were other aspects which merged
Hmm.
along with it, and
Yes,
like cumulatively everything grew together. And how
yes,
did it take shape in the various manifestations in your growing up years and also beyond, like when you
yes. You see, my parents were both musicians.
okay,
So I
so
grew up listening to
classically
music.
trained.
Classic. They are both
Okay,
classical musicians. So I
great.
grew up listening to music. My earliest memories is just lying down in a cot and listening to music. My mother is doing riyaz or practice, or they are preparing for a concert and stuff like that. So that music thing was sort of part of the environment. My grandfather was a film actor in the silent era in Calcutta.
Oh, okay, what was his
So
name?
his name was Moni Ghosh. He was the one of the earliest actors
Like
in the
in the
silent era.
Calcutta film industry.
Yes, yes, in
Okay,
the Calcutta Film
okay.
Industry.
This is a
So,
revelation I never knew.
so all this stuff is in your background. So you grow up with it and you constantly listen to music, or you hear them practicing, doing theater. So I think if you have a little bit of a creative bent to your mind, the mind subconsciously absorbs a lot of this stuff. And as you grow, as you mature, this manifest themselves slowly, if you have the talent, of
True,
course.
true.
Mm. And that's how I grew. I grew. Music came much later in my life, much later.
Okay, when was that? When was that precisely?
Well, my mother started teaching me when she must have sensed I've got a little of sense of music. So she used to sit down. You know how in Bengali households you sit down with the
Yeah,
harmonium and
with the
yell away.
harmonium.
You
My
know,
father used to
so
do that every day.
that's very common in Bengali
Mm.
households, and that's
Yeah,
my father was a very good tabla player and a rhythm player, and so
okay.
that's how I learned. I got my sense of rhythm. I learned a little bit from him. That's how you get into music. You sing a bit of Rabindra Sangeet and you sing a bit of, so like your parents do.
Any
So that's
early
how music
memories of
started.
like those songs that you can recollect
No, no,
now?
not really. No, no,
Not really.
nothing. She used to teach me also. I remember to play the harmonium a little. That's how I got into playing the harmonium. So that's how it all started. Bit late in life, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So I am very curious to know. You are talking about both art and music. Art you imbibed somewhat in your own way, and
Hmm.
music you said that to a great extent you are influenced by your family also.
Yes,
Family.
yes. Hmm.
So I would like to ask you, who were your role models in those formative years? In a way, we know that your family is one of them. And
Yes.
also, we would like to know of your earliest mentors in music, art, probably like you can talk about writing also. Who
Hmm.
mentored your writing process, your writing journey? How they have shaped your persona? What was this inspiration, the process of inspiration like?
Yes. Originally, of course, it started with my parents. As I said, they were musicians. They are not writers or anything like that. They just did a lot of music
So
and
how
theater.
did writing happen then? Just on its
Well,
own, or you had
I
different story?
I had I met a gentleman. He was a friend of my father's. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to anyone to in publicly, but he was a Bengali gentleman, and his name was Kamlaks Chatterjee.
Okay, in
He
Calcutta.
by and, no by then we had shifted to Ahmedabad. I grew up in
Okay.
Ahmedabad. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's where he was a friend of my father's, and I suspect that he would be one of the a total. He was a total genius, to be honest with you. He could do everything at a very high level. So he is the one who really inspired me to write, to read. You see, reading must precede writing. So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So
Exactly. So
he started
we are
inspiring me
writers
to
because we
read.
have read to some extent, and
Yes,
we have been inspired by those
of course,
narratives, those that
absolutely.
creative process which spurs on. art.
Absolutely. So he asked me to start reading,
Mhm.
and he forced me to read. I'm essentially very a man from who loves classical stuff. So whether be it music, whether it be literature or painting or whatever I do, I have always I've derived all the inspiration from classic works.
Yeah,
So for painting,
that is very necessary also, no?
yeah,
Because
absolutely necessary.
classics are
Absolutely,
like they are the backbones of
absolutely.
civilization
Yeah,
in whatever
other
form.
stuff.
So
Yeah, other styles will come and go, but what is classical in terms of literature or art will always be there,
I so
and
agree with you.
they'll always hold their values. So this gentleman, he inspired me to read and to write and to paint. He saw I had a bit of talent, so he would say, "Nana, sit down and paint or write or
And
read."
how old were you then at that time?
I was in school at that time. I must
Okay.
be in year 6 or 7,
Oh, quite
something like
young
that.
then also. Yeah.
Quite young, quite young. And he's
Hmm.
the man I really, other than my parents, who really, he actually forced me to do all this. He said, "You have to do this." So that's how I did it. And strange enough, the man, he was a genius, and he died unknown, alone on the floor of a public hospital of cancer.
Oh no.
Nobody, yeah.
You
So
know,
that's
many
all.
people of our erstwhile generation, they had a same fate because they were not
Yes.
publicity hungry.
Yep.
That time media was not that strong, and they had a different philosophy, different ethos
Mm.
of life,
Absolutely. Yeah,
which
absolutely.
we are not blessed with, unfortunately. But and our generation next won't be ever. So,
Yeah. Maybe not. Yes.
and in art also, like who was your mentor? Whom can you remember as your earliest mentor?
Uh, in art, to be honest with you, I really never needed a mentor. I was born like that. I could just draw and paint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are
And
totally
so,
self-taught in art?
yes, self-taught. I did a couple, in India, they have got a couple of government examinations called elementary and intermediate exam, which I passed. I was, in fact, one of the youngest ever to pass the elementary exam in India.
Oh, wow.
I was in year 5 when I passed that. So, and grown-ups used to give elementary exams. I was in year 5 or year 6 when I passed. So I did those two things. But other than that, I've never been to any art college. I never learned. It's just natural. It's just within me, drawing.
That's fabulous. And with that kind of self-training, the products that you come up with, we are really in awe.
That's all.
And
Thank you.
next, I would like to ask about one of your illustration works. Like this is a collection of your illustrations, the coronavirus files. It is a
Hmm.
collection of your cartoons composed during the situation of the COVID pandemic.
Yes.
And Blue Pencil helped you with the design and publishing solutions, as
Yeah.
much as I know. As we all know, in this entire 1 year, the world has been mercilessly gripped by an invisible microbe. There have been various literary, humanitarian, artistic projects that have aimed to channelize our anxieties, depression, and depression of isolation into various
Hmm.
forms of therapy through art. So, does this collection have the same objective? What would you say?
You see, there is one of my, I consider that to be a drawback, is that I tend to see humor in everything, you know. So it, whether be a
That's a
pandemic
beautiful
or
thing, actually.
yes, so I see a lot of humor. And I was thinking when this pandemic hit the world, and I thought that surely there must be something funny in all this. And I thought about it. I observed mannerisms. I observed a lot of other things. And then I decided, look, laughter might be a good medicine when people are
Medicine.
feeling a bit down. They are they're anxious. So I thought I should do something that makes people laugh. And I started drawing this series of cartoons, which I did. And I thought when it came through, it was a nice collection. And I thought it should come out as a book. And that's what I did. So that was the
How
objective, to
many
make people,
illustrations are there in the book in total?
oh, about 15 or with some text. So every illustration has got a bit of a
Okay.
text, humorous text.
Do
So
you
there are about
have
14 or
anything to
15.
show from that book to our audience? If you
Not
can,
really.
please, it would be great.
I don't have anything here, but I can draw something for you right now and transfer it to you if you
Oh,
want.
wow.
But rather than, but I don't have that book or that downloadable book at the moment. But it's a
I remember
Kindle. It's a Kindle book.
some of those sketches in their rudimentary form. If I'm not
Hmm.
wrong, I've seen
Yes.
some of them in Facebook and Instagram in social
Yes. Yes.
media.
Yes.
Is it a collection of the
Yes.
same things, I guess?
Similar. And then I added on to that and
Oh,
made it
yeah.
and wrote some text for each of them. So something funny.
Yeah, it would be great if you could read out at least some excerpts or like
I'll try and look if I
visualize,
have it here.
yeah,
Yeah.
some
I'll try and look.
artwork with like a few
Mm-hmm,
lines. That would be
mm-hmm. Okay.
great
Okay.
for the audience to know.
All right. I'll try
Apart
and
from
look if I
you,
have.
you can like while our show is still on, you can still see if you have any
Yep.
of
Yeah.
it.
Sure. I'll
Though
look
I
for it.
understand
Yep.
that there are constraints of time, but still,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Okay.
can
Okay.
just do
All right.
something.
Okay. Sure.
And again, coming back to your musical journey, um, Antara actually has expressed her desire for you to draw something, and I also think that it would be a great idea if you can draw instantly some sketch, like
Yep. Yep.
in a minute or two, and
Yep.
just
Yep.
present to our audience. That would be a wonderful
Yep.
idea, I believe.
Sure. Hey, keep on talking. I'm drawing. So
Yeah,
keep on talking.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always
You know. Keep on.
fascinated by the art that you do, even in the
Mm-hmm.
times of the pandemic, when
Yeah.
all of us tend to get a little like uh, sucked on into the vortex of pain and isolation and loneliness. This is the humor element which came
Indeed.
out of it,
Indeed.
and bringing out smiles on the faces of people in the dire circumstances. That is something which is very appreciable, and not many of us have the talent, or at least the inclination to do that, to come
Mm-hmm.
out with
Mm-hmm.
such kind
But
of
one has,
humor, which
I
is,
believe, one has to. Life is such that sometimes you don't. Nobody smiles or laughs all the time. Life is full of laughter and sadness.
yeah,
But I believe that laughter or even a smile goes a long way in diluting your sadness. If somebody
exactly.
is able to do that for you, then it's really, really good. It's really good.
And if you can like leave that for posterity as well, when
You can
we're
indeed,
again in a situation to smile,
absolutely,
then this is actually a legacy for posterity. That is
yeah,
also what I
absolutely,
believe.
absolutely, yep, absolutely.
So are you drawing anything
I
yet?
am. I'm keep on talking. I'm doing. Yeah. Right.
I just don't want to distract you. That's
No, no,
why.
no. It's all right. Keep. I can function. Yep. I can
Because the
function.
next question I have for you
Yes.
is about your musical journey. I've
Yes.
seen so many of your interviews of late. Before, like
Mm-hmm.
this interview was even like it was in the talks,
Mm-hmm.
but the date had not been fixed. But I was like going to the interviews of yours in YouTube, and some of
Yes.
them, which the links of which you posted in Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew all the more about Nataraj Academy and your
Yes.
musical journey. There was another radio interview quite some time back, which I recollect, in
Mm-hmm.
which you had described your experience playing alongside the very famous maestros of India.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yes.
have a lot of like curiosity in that regard,
Mm-hmm.
and from that curiosity I have woven a few questions, and I want to actually keep them
Yeah,
in
sure.
front of you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
about your musical journey and your tryst with Natraj Academy,
Mm-hmm.
and in your bio I got to know that Natraj Academy is 11 years old now.
It's actually much more
Yeah.
now because that was that old thing. It's now over 13 years now, I think.
Okay, okay,
Yep,
okay.
I,
So
I
I
would
want
say
to
yes.
know the journey, like
Hmm.
with Natra, your independent journey of music, and also the journey with Nataraj Academy. How has it
Yes.
been?
Well, academy, of course, I started in Sydney here in Australia because I always wanted to teach music, not really teach, but share whatever little I know in music with whoever is interested. So that's how it all started. And I always had this. this ambition to train up new voices, or do some vocal training for new voices. That's how it all started. Started on a very small scale. Now there are a lot of students who come, and we share music, and I share my experiences of music with them. And it
So it is
started a
based
long
in
time.
Sydney, and only people from
Yes.
Sydney can join there, right?
Yes, yes. They're all
Oh,
local
okay.
Sydney siders
All
who come in
localites.
London. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes.
So
Yes.
how much of like how many students on an average you get every year or every semester in
Uh,
Sydney?
I would say there would be over 40, 45 students at the moment, doing
Okay.
different
And
batches
all
and different
learn
stuff. Yeah.
classical, or there are other
No, no, no.
genres?
Where there are different kinds, different skill levels, if you want. So there are people who don't have much experience, or they don't want to learn classical. They just want to sing a few simple songs. That's all. So
Okay.
they have a different batch of people. Then there are people who want to do some more serious stuff, and classical music and other stuff. So that's a different set of people. So there are all levels, all
All
skill
levels.
levels, all levels. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And like how have the formative years of your music been like? What are the places that you have performed? You have been like part of so many concerts in Sydney, and I'm
Mhm.
sure in other parts of Australia and the world. So what
Yes.
are the areas of music that you have dabbled in? We know of the
Uh,
vocal, instrumental, and how did the
yes.
journey take shape?
Well, my musical journey started back in my college days, when I started singing in talent evenings and all that stuff in college. That's where it started, and from there, I moved into the commercial music scene, and then started performing. Got very busy in the 70s. I remember it was a very busy period of my life. Traveled to a lot of places, did a lot of music, um, mostly film music. Then I
Okay.
dabbled a lot in Western music. After that, got interested in rock and pop music, and did a lot of that stuff at one time. Um, Taught myself how to drum and became a drummer for a rock band,
Oh wow,
and
percussion.
all that
Okay.
percussion. Yes, so I do a lot of strange things in music, to be honest.
So, any
And
special anecdote that you can remember and you would want to share?
yes, many
I'm
anecdotes
sure there are
actually.
many, but if like one or two,
I'll
if you
tell
can.
you. I remember one interesting thing was we were called to perform some, I can't remember where, but it was a huge audience, about 3,000 people sitting, and some
Wow.
film actors were supposed to come there. Okay, and so the actors didn't turn up. Okay, so the audience came to know about this, and I remember, and you know how it is in India. It's a mass movement. So once something starts, everybody starts. And I remember we were chased by the audience through through the village or the town
Wow.
where I was, because they
Must
had
be
actually
very
come.
exciting.
Obviously, oh, and scary too. Yes. So, and we ran for our lives because they had come to see actors. You see, our music was just as a byproduct. So when they understood that actors are not coming, they chased us. Actually, chased us out of the town. And I
Oh,
remember I actually went and hid in a temple
oh
to,
no.
to the whole night. So
How
to escape from these
crazy
people.
is that?
Okay. And I'm
Yeah.
glad I was young at that time and I could run fast. So that,
So there was a
yeah.
comment from one of your students.
Hmm.
Her name is Sumedha. She
Yes.
was in the Nataraj Academy, and she has fond memories, and she has referred to those like in a line that she has
Hmm.
spent some wonderful time in the Nataraj
Yes.
Academy
Yep.
Saturdays.
Yep. Yep. Yes,
You
she's here
remember
every
her?
Saturday. Yeah, yeah, she's
Yeah.
she's still there, still learning.
Thank you,
We are
Sumedha,
all
for joining.
we are all learning. By the way, I'm also a student, so we all learn music all the time.
Yeah. So any students of like these recent years that you would specially like to remember or mention, especially
Oh
gifted
well,
student?
there have been there are two things, Lopa. One is that you have the gift. The other is you're ready to do your hard work.
Hmm.
One without the other is useless. So
Exactly.
you might have the skill in something, not only music, But if you're not ready to work hard, it doesn't work. Or you have the ability to work hard, but you don't have the skills. That's also a waste of time. So,
It's a
there are
combination,
many.
actually.
It's always a combination. So if there have been many students who have been quite skilled, and there are still many students who have been very skilled, and those who work hard, they are doing well. Some
Hmm.
of them are doing commercial music now, which is great, and they
Wow.
should. This is very
Okay.
very good. So that makes me proud and happy. But I always tell them that you have to keep on working. Doesn't matter if you're new to the music industry or you're there 50 years. Doesn't matter. You keep on working. So hard work is
Hmm.
very important. Very very important.
Very important. Yeah. And it
Mm.
goes for all kinds of craft, whether
Everything,
it is
everything.
writing or singing or art,
Absolutely. Keep on
everything.
doing it. Can't stop. Can't
Persistent,
stop.
being
Yes.
persistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So while I was talking to you, I got a vision of somebody who must be sitting in front of um, the terminal watching Facebook, and
Wow.
um, and
Such a
um,
lovely thought in itself.
in itself, obviously
Such
that
a
person is,
fertile mind you have.
yeah. So the person is, as you can see, wearing a mask and watching you. See that?
Wow.
Yep. Okay.
All
So
masked up
all
and
masked up
everything.
here and
Yeah.
watching up.
Wow. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Coming back again to your music. Oh, okay, Santosh Bakaya is there. Santosh
Hmm.
writes, humor is a much needed crutch in these times. Yes, Santosh, we will talk about bring out the tall tales also and the role of humor in it. I have a question based on that. We will come to it very soon. After the musical questions are done with, we will come to the literary side. So, again, going back to the musical shows, you have done a series of musical shows with greater causes like humanitarian, philanthropic causes and objectives for greater goals. How, like, how would you define them? Would you like to share those, like some of those experiences?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work for breast cancer research in Australia last 10 years. So I try and give as much as, so a lot of my proceeds from my concerts or what I write, what I create, goes towards breast cancer research in Australia. So the last 10 years, it's been so. Try to do as
Okay.
much as like every drop helps, you see. So that
Yeah,
that has
I
been the
keep
objective.
seeing some of those, the news of some of those shows. Once you post in the social media, I get to see them.
Yes.
But like that was what my curiosity came, how my curiosity came in this regard. That like how is the like backdrop? How do you prepare for these shows and like these causes? What drives you? What is your inspiration?
The
That's
inspiration has been my wife, Palu. She's a breast cancer survivor. So
okay.
10 years ago, when she was struck down, we decided that whatever, she also does a lot of charity work.
Okay.
Whatever I create, if there are any proceeds, if there are any money made out of it, everything should go to cancer research, and that's what the driving force is, and still goes on. We're still
That's a
working
great
with
initiative. Did you do any
somebody.
fundraising or anything like anything of this sort in this past 1 year during the COVID times? Any
COVID
of
times, no, but there's one coming up in November, which is for again for one
this
of the
November?
cancer this November, one of the
Okay.
cancer research houses. All the money will be given to them. But
Okay.
even what I write, my first book that I wrote, A Turn of Events, that I raised about 16, 17 thousand dollars, and for
Oh,
cancer
okay. Yeah.
research.
Yeah. I think I read about that in a post of yours. I can recollect it. When you refer to it, I can recollect it.
It's like this, Lopa, that all of us, we grow up taking from society.
Yeah,
We have to.
definitely.
Unless
In
we take
some way
from
or the
society,
other, we do.
you cannot flourish. But a time comes when, if you think that you have taken enough, then
Hmm.
that's the time when you have to give back to society. And
Yeah,
that's a must.
exactly.
All of us must do it in whatever way possible. Amount doesn't matter. It can be
Hmm.
$5 or a dollar that you give. Is the attitude that's more important, the
Yeah,
giving attitude. That's what I
exactly.
believe in anyway.
And Sumedha again writes, I must say, Lopa, our teacher is quite lenient and loving, never like typical music teachers. That's So great to know. So sweet of you, Sumedha, to unravel this aspect of Abhijit Das' personality as a teacher.
The
Do you have
teachers
any
I have,
fond memories with your students? Any anecdotes? Anything
well,
like
there are
you
many,
want to
many
share?
anecdotes, you know. Yeah, they've been, look, I must say that it's good I'm lenient, because the way I have learned music myself has not been easy. You see, I've been groomed and taught under teachers who have been very, very strict. All right, so that and I don't want to get that side of teaching into my style. So that's not good. The way I've learned is very hard, very, very.
Because the music teachers or the art teachers that I remember, they were very strict.
That's too
So
very strict.
I
Yeah.
I learned whatever I learned in a very hard way. So any image which is like diametrically opposite to that, it is a cause for like some speculation and thought. So, and
Yes,
you being a
yes.
person of so many wearing so many hats must be different in that aspect also.
Yeah, yeah. I like to teach and let people have a bit of fun too.
Yeah.
Especially out in countries like Australia. India
Hmm.
was a different ball
India
game
was
for
different,
me,
yes.
and it was a
Cultural
different ball
difference,
game.
actually.
Absolutely, not only that, but even for me, music was my source of earning in India. That was for years. It gave me money. Out here, you don't need money out of music. And by the way, if
Hmm.
people think in countries like Australia, if people think that they can become millionaires through music, they need to start thinking again. So if you do it for love and passion, it's great. If you're doing it for money, I think you're in the wrong spot in music.
Hmm. Partho Mondol, Partho, hi Partho. Partho has written a very encouraging comment. Very well put, Abhijitda. It is important to give back to society. That's the best way to make the world a better place. I cannot agree more. Yeah,
Yes,
we all cannot
yes,
agree more that it is a very commendable gesture to give back to society in whatever little capacity we have. And here we have such an inspirational change maker with us who has given to society in so many various forms, in so many manifestations that it becomes an example to us, to humanity. Coming back again to your role as an illustrator, because I know you as an illustrator also. You have designed my book, Tales of Transformation. What a beautiful design that you have done. You have done other beautiful covers, artwork for a number of other authors' book, including Friends Forever. I guess the author was Ramendra Kumar, if I'm
yes,
not wrong.
yes, yes,
The
yes.
Silent Pandemic, Ohak by Santosh Bakaya is another
Mhm.
very famous magnum opus book of hers, and it came out in the significant anthology first. Then later
Yes.
on, it was republished in a solo book form with your illustrations. I haven't had the good fortune to see the book yet, but I have visited, I have seen some illustrations which are part of the book. So, tell us about your experiences of collaborating with these authors in their
Mhm.
writing journey with your illustrations. How have you felt? How have those experiences spurred you on?
When I draw illustrations for a book that's written by someone else, it is like, for me, it's very similar to writing music. So
Hmm.
when I compose music or compose a song, I am driven by the poetry of the song. So if the poet is good and the poetry is in good meter, with the right words fitted in, for me, composing the song becomes much easier.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
same for drawing for me.
Hmm.
If the author, the writer, has produced the goods and it's really good stuff, that itself makes my life very easy. For all the books that I've written, whether it's your cover,
So the
or,
content drives it. The
the
content
content
drives
drives it,
this passion
and
to.
the quality of the content, you see, that
Hmm.
drives me. The descriptive nature of the content. So if I'm drawing a character, the way it is done in the textual form, that drives me, that really inspires me, and also gives me a lot of helping hand to draw those illustrations. So it's
Hmm.
always the author or the poet that drives me in my illustrations for books.
I remember like long time back when I got acquainted with you through the Mind Creative Journal, which I don't know whether you run this journal now or not. It has stopped for some reason, for
Mhm.
any reason whatsoever. The memories that I have of it, first memory that comes to my mind is your illustration of the cover design. And
Mhm.
every issue used to be so meticulously imagined and executed. So, would you want to share some experiences of running that magazine? And like, why has it stopped, Avijit Dak? And do you have any plans to restart it?
Well, I do have plans to restart. It's just I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of work that I have on hand.
Yeah, I can
You know?
understand that. Yeah.
And as you know, publishing a magazine, and I was editing the magazine myself, is
Mm.
hard work. Takes a lot of time.
But it was
So
such a
what?
well executed magazine. I used to
Hmm,
love
hmm.
every issue of it.
I would like to restart that at some stage, but it was eating into a lot of my time because it does take a lot of
Okay.
time. But it was good while I because I came to know a lot of authors, a lot of illustrators, a lot of
That
actors
was
through that
how we
magazine.
got acquainted. Even
Yes,
Santosh
yes,
Bakayadi also,
yes,
I
yes.
think, through
That's
that
right.
journal. Ampat Koshi
Yep.
sir, he also got
Yes,
acquainted
yes,
with you through that
yes.
process.
Indeed. Yep.
Yeah. So,
We'll
and
start
do
it
you
off
remember
someday.
any particular design or illustration from that magazine till date, till today? Like, is there anything special? I remember the illustration of the brain, the human brain,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah,
Yep, yep,
that was
yep.
the central imagery which haunted me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep. Things like that. I mean, the content always drives me. The name of the magazine drove me to draw that or create that image of the brain and so on. Yeah. So it's the content that drives me.
yeah. So, in all the illustrations, whether you are doing your own artworks or whether it is another author's book for which you are collaborating, it's the content that
It's the
actually
content.
gives you the sole inspiration to
Yes.
sketch out the
For my own
journey.
works, I depend on my eyes. I
Yeah,
observe a lot. I don't talk much, but I observe a lot in life,
yeah,
and I listen a lot. So if I'm standing in a crowd, I pick up what people are talking about, and I remember. Or if I'm standing in a crowd or watching people, I remember how they stand, how they talk, how they sit down, what are their mannerisms, and all that goes into my art, especially my cartoons and illustrations. All that.
yeah,
So for all cartoonists and illustrators, I believe everyone they must know how to observe and how to listen. Helps a
yeah,
lot.
definitely so. And coming back to your like, let's talk about your writing journey now.
Mhm.
Since we talked about your editorial side, uh, the readers already the audience and your readers including us, we know that you are a very powerful writer of prose and a short story writer too. You have been part of numerous short story anthologies, and I loved reading your stories in the collection Bring Out the Tall Tales. And now Santosh Di, incidentally, she has a question, something about tall tales. Yes, Santosh Di, here is the question. So I loved reading your stories in the collection, Bring Out the Tall Tales, in which you collaborated with Dr. Santosh Bakaya. And I particularly have have a fascination towards this story of yours, a weighty problem, which was written about a fat man, an obese man, and how you have infused the humor with such finesse in it. How do you think short stories as a powerful medium of storytelling and literature inspires you?
It inspires me because writing short stories is always a challenge, always, because you
Yes,
only have so much of space to express yourself.
very little
The
space.
the
Yes,
beginning, the plot, and the ending. So you really need that. It's a hard yard sometimes to. So that's why it's always
mm,
challenging to write short
very
stories.
challenging.
Even the plays that I am now writing, they're all short plays.
Oh,
So
you're writing
that's
plays
all.
now for the
I'm writing a
stage?
lot of for the stage, and I'm writing a lot of plays now. Yes.
Okay. And anything in particular you want to mention here?
I'm writing a series of short plays, and I am hoping, and I'm talking to a few producers to stage them. So I would love to see short plays of not more than 15 minutes, maybe five of them in an evening, five or six of them in an evening.
Okay. Like in a
That,
skit
that that's the
style?
concept.
In a skit?
Yes, in a skit
Okay.
style, yeah, but very short and very diverse in content. So I'm writing a few at the moment. But
Okay.
coming back to Tall Tales, yes, they're all humorous stories. And yes, the particular story that you mentioned about a rather large man, yes, I remember that. Yeah.
And there are many other tales about general like human life, especially the life of the NRIs in
Hmm.
Australia, which I'm
Yes.
sure is a product of whatever you have witnessed in the,
Hmm.
your journey in Australia as a whole,
Yes.
as an
Yes.
NRI yourself. And
Hmm.
particularly, I would want to mention that there is a lot of tongue in cheek humor in all these stories. And does that come naturally to you while creating? Because when you create your illustrations, they are very tongue in cheek. So, same for
Hmm.
the stories. Do they come naturally? Are they all inspired by real life?
Oh well, I am. How do I say this? How I'm a bit of a cynic myself, you know, and
Okay.
so
You
I
don't
have a
look like
cynical
one though.
I have a cynical view of life, a very cynical view of life, and but as I said, I observe with, but yes, I do have this cynical tongue-in-cheek humor. I've had this since I was young, and my daughter and my granddaughters also quite enjoy that tongue-in-cheek humor. But as I said, it's
Have
all
they read
depends
your
upon.
stories, all of them?
Well, the three of them, the three granddaughters are they're little, but I
Okay.
spin stories for them all the time, so
Oh, okay. Instantly?
they've got it instantly,
Oh,
instantly.
wow.
But but yes, that cynical side of me has been there, and that comes out in my humor sometimes. I've also been driven by the works of P.G. Wodehouse, you see,
Oh, yeah.
and his writing style and his humor. It
I
has
see a
really
lot
driven
of
me.
Woodhouse in you for
Mm.
sure when you
It's
mentioned it.
really, it's
Yeah.
really inspired me, my writing humor.
Yeah.
And that does that answer Santosh Bakaya's question about Tall Tales? It was a
Yeah, it's a
fantastic
very favorite
project.
book of mine. You remember I had I took an interview of both of you after
Yes,
reading this book for
yeah,
learn which was
yes,
published in Learning and Creativity. If
yes,
the
yes,
viewers listening to our show, they go to the Learning and Creativity archives and type uh, an interview with Dr. Santosh Baka and Avijit Sarkar, they will get to read the whole interview, the whole transcript of the interview, which I took some years back. So I really loved this book, and I think you should do more books like these, like illustrations and stories inspired
yeah.
by
Some
these.
things are coming up
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah,
Some things,
definitely
yeah.
would love to give it a read. So there is still some time and like a couple more questions. In the middle of it all, if you can read a short excerpt from any of your stories, doesn't have to be
I'll run.
necessarily from this book, any book of short
I was not
stories.
I was not prepared for this, but if I can,
Would
I'm
you
trying to
mind if
find
I
one.
read? If you don't,
Yeah, no, 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 no. Please do, please do.
I would really, I just very short, like 1 minute, 2 minutes
Sure,
probably.
sure, sure. Go ahead and do it.
So I'll read out an excerpt from a weighty problem because
Okay.
it is open in front of me.
All
So
right.
Partho Mondul has a question. Let us take his
Yeah.
question
Okay.
first and
Yeah.
then I will read
Sure.
out. So
Yes.
Partho asks, when you create a character for a novel like say Friends Forever, what
Hmm.
do you keep in mind as the character has to be consistent? It's a
Yes.
very good question,
It's a
Partho.
very good question.
So,
So what I do is when the author tells me, I always talk to the author or the poet what the character is all about. So if the author says, okay, this is the age group, maybe 10 years old, 15 years old boy or a man or 20-year-old man. The first thing I do on a piece of paper, I draw the character. And if
hmm,
the author says that, yeah, that's what I'm thinking, that's the character, then the difficult task is to take that character that I've drawn face front and create that character looking at different ways,
hmm,
profile from the back, from the side, from an angle, from down. And so, because the same character must be consistent.
hmm.
That
Yeah.
face must be consistent. The body must be consistent. That's a bit of a hard
And
bit.
there's a lot of detailing in it as well, no?
You have to put in the details. So
Hmm.
that's the next step. I take a character and draw the character from all angles. So in the story, as the story spins out, I can then place the character in my drawings from different angles and so on. So that's how if it answers that question. Yes,
Yeah. So in that connection also, this will go well with the just the two paragraphs which I want to read from a
sure.
weighty problem. The exposition, I really loved it. The way you introduce the character in terms of the setting. As the cab tore through the cold streets of Melbourne, Ram Damfart, which is again a funny name, closed his eyes, snorted as he always did when he was intellectually stimulated, and mused about his life. He decided that he hated two things in his life: his name and his weight. His name brought him unwanted infamy coupled with social digs, while his weight landed him in unforeseen embarrassing situations. He had often explained to both friends and strangers that Dumfort was a genuine German surname and that his first name Ram came from his Indian ancestry on his mother's side. The combination of the two, he had always admitted, left him open to odd comments, smirks, and snide looks. And then he also had his 125 kilos to deal with. He grimaced and muttered under his breath, "Completely my fault. I should have stopped stuffing pastries and burgers in my college days." Anyway, it was a bit late now. His eyes snapped open as the cab came to a screeching halt on the patio of the hotel. Hotel Sapphire was a wonderful place, 4 stars and very well managed. In fact, there was a reason. That was the reason why Ram had agreed to do the training course that his company had booked him for: free travel, free lodgings at a top hotel, and of course, free food. Coming back to food again, which he wanted to avoid in the first place. All that Ram had to do was cater for his own grog. Ram had, in fact, accepted the offer from his manager with surprising alacrity. So, this is from the book Bring Out the Tall Tales, and the name of the
Mhm.
story, written by Avijit Sarkar, is A Weighty Problem.
Mhm.
And the beautiful way that the story starts, the exposition is so powerful, as I have already said.
Thank you.
Atul Dave writes another comment: wonderful to be witness to such lively interview with a contemporary living legend and an institution of fine arts. Thank you, Mr. Atul Dave, for the beautiful comment. And Abhijit Da is
Atul,
indeed a legend and an institution.
no, 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 I'm nothing like that. By the way, Atul is my schoolmate.
Okay, okay.
So
And
we
Antara
went,
is okay. Okay, he's your schoolmate
he is my
from
schoolmate.
Ahmedabad then.
From Ahmedabad, yeah, yeah. From
Okay.
we are from St. Xavier's High School, yes, both of us.
And Antara has a very interesting question regarding your music. Antara asks, when you compose music, what do you start with? The lyrics or the theme of a rag or a music piece? Which I wanted to ask also in my way. Antara, thank you for asking this question.
You see, music, when you compose music, there are different driving factors. Sometimes the poetry comes first. So somebody comes with a piece of poetry and says, this has to be composed. And so you take the piece of poetry and then you compose it. Whether you compose it based on a classical raga or not, it's up to you. It depends on the situation, what you, I mean, the person might come and say, can you compose a pop song out of it? So you do a pop song composition. Some people might say, I need a classical based composition. So that rag thing comes in based on the requirement. Not all songs are based on ragas. The other thing is sometimes you create a tune and keep it with you. So that's what I do many times. I'm in the mood, or if I'm sitting on the piano or harmonium, and I create a little tune. Later on, the poetry comes later on. So if I meet a poet and I say, look, this is a tune I've composed, I hum it or play it, can you write something for me? So that's the other way around. The melody comes first, the poetry is inserted later on. So things happen in different ways. Um, for example, when I'm writing a background score for a theater, or which I've done a lot of theater background scores, or a movie, that all depends upon the theme. That's theme based, the story, whatever is happening. So there are different ways in which you compose music. The drivers are all different, all different. If that answers Santara's question.
So, from what I understand, is the various genres of the music, they actually uh, the process differs in every
Yes,
genre. It is a different process,
yes, yes,
different
it
creative
is
process. If it is a ghazal,
definitely
then it is different. If it is a
completely different.
Hindustani rag based something, some composition based on a Hindustani rag, then the process is different.
It's very different,
But it
very different.
all combines to a composite whole
Yes, yes, it does.
creativity. And
Somebody is asking, do you
somebody is
have to
asking, do
be?
you have to be in a special mood to compose the music?
Well, yes, well, No, not really. It's part of your system. So if I have to compose music, if somebody a poetry comes along, the mood doesn't matter anymore. Not anymore. Not at my stage in life. So I look at the poetry, I sit down, and I start writing music or composing. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing to listen to your creative process. And now, what are some of the projects that you're working on right now? Like both the artistic and the literary. Are there
Yes.
things that are simultaneously going on?
Yeah. There are. One is, of course, I told you that I want to do I want to stage some of my plays. So I'm
Theatre.
writing quite a
Right.
bit of theater nowadays. A lot of theater. In fact, I'm spending a lot of time writing theater and quite liking it too. By the way, the other
So,
thing
do
that
you
has
have any intention to turn any of your short stories into script or theater?
yes. I'm
Hmm.
writing the plays, so they should go up in production. I'm hoping within the next year or so they should go up in production on stage.
And any books in the collaboration in collaboration with other authors like you did with Santosh Bakaya?
No,
Any
no,
author?
I'm waiting for authors to ring me up and say, "Hey,
I'm
do you
waiting
want to
for you to
collaborate?"
collaborate with me someday. Though I don't have the humor thing
No,
with
no,
me,
no, no.
but I want to
We
try in
can.
that genre as well, if
That'll
given
be
a
great,
chance.
Lopa. I'm happy to do serious stuff too.
All
So
my
that's
writings
a
are so sad, sad, sad.
no, no, no,
To
no. That's all right.
collaborate with you.
Uh, we should do one. We should one together.
Definitely.
The
And there
other
is
thing I'm
another
doing,
question. Uh-huh.
yeah, the other thing that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to produce a collection of all my plays,
Hmm.
all the poetry that I've written. I'm not really a poet like you, but a lot of poetry I've written and plays and essays. So I've written 20
By the way, the
essays
poem
and
that you had written for Muffled Moons, it was really wonderful. On child
thank you.
abuse, you,
Thank
you
you.
remember?
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm putting all this together, plays,
Okay.
poems, and prose, and hoping to publish a book sometimes. Yeah,
Wow, that would be lovely.
that would
I
be
will wait for that to come out.
thank you.
So, as you're a complete artist, so we all create what we would like to say would be probably our legacy for posterity, as we already discussed on a different note some time back. So,
Hmm.
what is your idea about leaving behind a legacy for the generations to come? Like, say you have three daughters.
Hmm.
What would be
Hmm.
your legacy for them for the future generations?
Well, I hope to leave, if you call it legacy, but I think if I'm able to spread some peace, some love, and some compassion through whatever I create, that should be enough for me in my lifetime.
Wow,
That's all I
lovely.
want to do. I want to use my creativity as a language for these three things, about for peace, for love, and for compassion. Something that the
Wow.
world needs to really do a little bit more in. So if I can leave that legacy of these three things, I should be happy, I think.
Definitely. And we all look forward to that because we know that in
Thank you.
every piece of art that you create, be it in books or illustrations or music, you leave behind a legacy in some form for humanitarian benefits with a greater cause. So,
Yes,
yeah,
it's very important.
definitely.
There's an interesting question if you read.
Yeah, there's an interesting question from Akanksha. I was waiting to uh,
Yep.
read out that. Sir, I have heard that highly creative minds even don't sleep when their mind is busy creating. Have you been sleep deprived when working on a creative project? And what is the maximum? Great question,
Well,
Akanksha.
there was a time when I used to be sleep deprived, but
Mine
nowadays it's
always.
nowadays, yeah, always, especially when you're starting off in music. Let's say there's a concert coming in my young days, when a concert coming along, a big one, and you would think and what's going to happen, and so you think at night. But nowadays I've come to a stage where it's all right. I sleep well, if that answers the question.
So you
Maybe if there's
like
a
do you follow that rule book of having 8 hours of sleep
I think
for
so.
the
I think so.
adults kind
Yeah.
of thing? Because I
I mean,
don't have that privilege
no,
myself.
I work at night. I sometimes late at
Okay.
night when I'm writing music or doing something, but
Mm.
it's nothing to do. So if I've got a concert tonight, for example, I have to hold an audience for 3 4 hours. I won't have not lost. I don't lose sleep over such things nowadays.
Hmm.
I'm doing this for a long time, so
Yeah. So you have an understanding that you'll do fine irrespective of
yeah,
anything.
I try to do my best.
And now, that we are close to the finishing line, what would you like to say to the audience as your parting words? Like any special message? I would, if you ask me, I would really love if you can sing a few lines from your favorite
Uh, we'll, we'll,
music or
we'll, we'll,
ghazal
we'll
or
keep the
anything.
singing. We'll keep the singing for later. There you go. Okay.
You don't want
I'll
to?
publish. I'll publish a few songs for you. Okay. Give
Okay,
this time.
yeah.
But
So
if you
anything
have
what you?
something for the audience, is that
Mhm.
look, I've all my life, I've thanked people, my audiences, or people who come and listen to me, my music, or people who read my books, people who laugh at the illustrations and the cartoons. That's
Yeah,
my biggest. I've always. I am what I am because of such people. People who listen to me, people who read and look at what I create. If those people were not there, I wouldn't be what I am today, to be honest. So this is the moment. I always thank them. Today I thank them again. And a big thank you to my family, who's without whom I would be really be dead by now, because living with a person like me is not always easy, you know. So
yeah.
they have to have more patience with me
All
than me with
creative
them.
people are
Yeah.
like that, you know.
So
Yeah,
they have suffered a lot, because you know how it is living in a house with such people. So I really need to thank my wife Palu, and my daughter and my granddaughters. They think I'm funny, so, and
they are
strange
very
at
small.
times.
I have seen their pictures in Facebook. So sweet, all three of them.
So that's my, I guess, a parting word to the audience, that I really need to thank them, really thank them from the bottom of my heart. I am what I am because of you. That's what I say.
Thank you for being the lovely person and the lovely artist
Thank you.
that you are. And there's one more last question, or I
Sure.
would say a comment by Suman Mathur: peace,
Mhm.
love, and compassion as legacy to leave behind. Wow, Mistro. Thank you for
Thank
the wonderful comments, Suman Mathur.
thank you.
And I hope everybody enjoyed listening to this wonderful conversation of Abhijit Da, truly a gifted person. He has so many beautiful things to share, out of this world, actually. We don't have many like him amongst us these days, because everybody is driven by so many materialistic pursuits these days. But creativity, I always believe, is a gift. When nurtured, it will be a gift for life, and it is
Yes.
God's greatest blessing that is bestowed on us. So here is to our creativity, here is to music, and three cheers to the artist that
Indeed.
stays and creates those inspiring legacies for generations to come. With this note, I would want to thank you, Abhijitda, wholeheartedly. I had been waiting for this session for a long time, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. And I really thank Antara Nanda Mandal of
Indeed. Yes.
Learning and Creativity and Blue Pencil for organizing, for like the creating the impetus to go forward with this
Sure.
event, one of its own kind, and we would definitely want to have you again with us in any form. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Lopa. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Suman
everyone.
Mathur ji. Thank you, Madhu,
Thank you.
for attending.
Thanks a lot.
तेरे दामन से जो आए उन हवाओं को सलाम चूम लूं मैं उस सबा को जिस पे आए तेरा नाम सबसे रंगीन सुबह तेरी सबसे रंगीन तेरी शाम तुझ पे दिल कुर्बान तू ही मेरी आरज़ू तू ही मेरा